Well, let's return to Skobov for a moment, as he has become the figure of the day. Let's note that Skobov does not hide behind this tedious and disgusting hurdy-gurdy about patriotism, about Russia. He doesn't wave this shameful tricolor and doesn't display this ugly set of good Russians. But in general, I can tell you that the authorities, patriotism over a person is, of course, fanciful and fictional. Any patriotism is nothing more than an induced psychosis. It has a clear psychiatric designation and is defined precisely as such. And this didn't happen yesterday. As far as I remember, it was even in 1877. The Horst and Jean-Paul Faure, French psychiatrists, conducted a powerful study on patriotism. In general, it is a very artificial, very easily surmountable thing, as proven by tens of thousands of settlers in foreign lands. What is patriotism in general, and what is Russian patriotism? Well, Russian patriotism is probably the state when some rats are so burdened with what they've plundered from the country that they simply cannot sail away from the ship of Russia. Such rats are called patriots of the highest caliber. But it's not all that simple. Patriotism in Russia is as diverse as the caliber of holes in its outhouse toilets. And always, just as emaciated, it's generally an interesting thing, his patriotism it follows. To place it under a microscope and examine its structure, and it will become clear that Russian patriotism is one of the most vicious phenomena, of course. It is multifaceted. And the standard Moscow elite patriotism is, for example, fear for one's position, for property, for a house in Rubliovka, for comfort, for the opportunity to have affairs with actresses, to sip brandy somewhere, in patriarch's ponds and be rude to Tajik janitors. And the understanding that nowhere else will it be possible to do this in such a free and easy manner. After all, what is Patriarch's Ponds? What is Russia? We have talked about this many times. After all, it is a country of dead mechanical general secretaries, the maniac Putin, camps, queues, and gallows, dirt, poverty, lawlessness, feeding on weakened neighbors and its own population. They claim that they love this accordingly because they love Russia. In zoology, for example, the property is called philopatry and is interpreted as the need for an animal to return to the place where it was born, raised, and first dispersed. And this property in some animals has a strong biological foundation, inherent in fish, reptiles, insects. They are there, I don't know. Woodcocks, eels, salmonfish, brown-winged plovers, 2, philopatric, ground squirrels, toads, and some varieties of ants. Philopatric properties are also used in training homing pigeons. That is, if we delve a little for a second, in this question we will see that philopatric tendencies exist in those animals that have not the slightest hope of surviving in an unfamiliar environment or winning competition in another. Slightly different in climate and vegetation region. It is for this reason that evolution has taken care and fixed in them this attachment to a specific place, simply to not lose the species. But in the case of Homo, that is humans, patriotism is not present, it is not in the genome. It is always an induced, that is, an instilled trait. Thus, innate true patriotism as a biological quality or some sense of homeland does not exist in humans in principle. In general, then, if it existed, everyone would be traitors and betrayers of the motherland who betrayed and forgot. The homeland, because for all of humanity, it is located in Africa. if this concept of homeland had a natural origin, well, firstly, it would be in the genome or would have been fixed there. And the genome knows how to remember everything and remind about everything. And then at the site of, I don't know, the sands of the Kalahari, or the lakes of Tanzania, or the Kalahari, tears of tenderness would flow from every person's eyes. As is known, these specific regions of Africa are the cradle of the first and main homeland of every person. Their true homeland, it is from here that Homo sapiens once spread out across the planet. And looking at a branch of jujube, this is a very symbolic plant of these places. Everyone would have tears flowing. But at the sight of jujube, only inebriated botanists cry.